The Roseal Township Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of Tuesday, October 25th, 2022 is called to order. I would ask that everybody please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. There's been one modification to tonight's agenda. The second item on our agenda, election of officers, has been adjourned to a date to be determined. Is anyone else aware of any additions or deletions to the agenda needed? That being said, the second item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the regular board meeting of August 23rd, 2022. Any changes or deletions needed to the board meeting minutes from August 23rd?
No.
Can I have a motion to approve the board minutes from August 23rd, 2022?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The board minutes from August 23rd, 2022 are approved. The first and only item on our agenda this evening is appeal number 22-007, which is the applicant Nicholas Grias of 22255 King Road in Woodhaven has requested this hearing for a variance to construct a single-family residence on a non-conforming lot of record located on Annette Street, Lot 54 at Point Hennepin, with the rest of the legal description in the minutes. Mr. Borden, would you please give us your presentation on this proposed appeal?
I would be happy to, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. Before I dive into the request before you tonight, I'm going to give the board the standard intro and make sure that the petitioner and residents in attendance tonight understand the process. So because we are too short tonight, this is a 7-member body. We have 5 members represented. Under state law, requires a motion to pass a variance of a majority of the membership of the board. So in order to grant the request tonight, it would take at least 4 votes to pass the motion. So hopefully that all makes sense. So in other words, 3-2 does not pass. I want to make sure that we're clear on that. I know the board is, but I want to make sure that the petitioner understands that as well. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at our request tonight. So we are looking at the property. It is a vacant lot, 27,000 square foot lot, 90-foot width, west side of Meridian, and it is along the north side of unimproved Annette. So if you can follow my cursor here, this is the site on aerial form, the wooded site here. Annette as a public right-of-way, it does extend all the way through this portion of the property. It is what we often refer to as a paper street. In other words, it is platted. It is a public right-of-way. However, it has never been improved. And in situations like this, while we can never say never, I would say, in my opinion, having worked here for close to 19 or 20 years now, it is highly unlikely that this portion of Annette would ever be constructed. So I want to make sure you understand the caveat when I make that statement, because it's not up to me, and it is a public right-of-way, and if Wayne County wanted to build a roadway there, they would have every right to do so. However, it essentially provides little to no purpose. The 2 homes that would have access to it already have access to Meridian, so it is not it's not needed for vehicular access. So I just wanted to get that out there, because we have seen this situation several times in the course of, again, the past 19-20 years. This does pop up at least, if not once a year, every couple of years. So I'm sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask you a quick question on that?
Of course.
So with that said, in the past, things we have approved or not approved with the undeveloped roads, has it ever come up to where a road has been developed after we approve something?
Not that I recall, no.
Okay.
Not on a paper street.
Okay.
Not in a situation like this, certainly, either. There are situations with other properties along paper streets where the township does require, if you need it for access, you have to actually put the roadway in under your roads and driveways ordinance, but this is not the case here because they do have the 60-foot of frontage on a public road already.
Thank you.
Yep. So the site, and this is an interesting line of demarcation too, so the site and then the parcels to the north, so these residents, again, if you can follow my cursor, to the north along Meridian, these are within the R1D single-family residential zoning district. And then from unimproved Annette to the south, on, again, the waterfront side of Meridian, these are actually zoned R1B, as in boy. So there is a zoning line that runs right through here. And our subject site is subject, as I mentioned, to R1D, as in dog, standards. And the request before you tonight is for construction of a new single-family home. The design that's presented to you encroaches into the unimproved Annette front yard. So even though it's unimproved, it is still a public right-of-way, and therefore this is a corner lot, and therefore they are still required to provide the 40-foot minimum front yard setback. So it is not a side yard, it is a front yard. Were it a side yard, we probably wouldn't be here tonight. So by definition, that's the primary item. There is also, the way it was designed, there is also a side yard setback encroachment drawn into the plan. So they're proposing a 20-foot setback from unimproved Annette, and I've got the plans in here, I'll get to those momentarily, and an 8-foot side yard to the north. The Meridian setback is compliant, and the average shoreline setback is also compliant for this neighborhood. You can see there's a pretty good line of shoreline setback, and they have constructed this home pretty much right in the area where it would need to be. So what the board is tasked with tonight is evaluating the request based on the standards of section 23.5B. So left side of your screen lays out the review criteria that the board is to apply. Of note, of course, we always talk about and focus on practical difficulties, substantial justice, extraordinary circumstances, and then other items sort of tangential to that and related to neighborhood character, supply of light and air, etc. So you do have my review letter, which does outline and provide responses to each of the 14 review standards. The specifics of the request are tied to section 3.5 of the zoning ordinance. As I mentioned earlier, Meridian and Annette, both being front lot lines, do require front yard setbacks, and R1D requires a 40-foot setback along both. Because it's a waterfront lot, it is an average shoreline setback, and the way the home has been laid out and is designed in the plans before you, they do comply with the average shoreline setback. R1D also requires a 12-foot side yard setback. So that's one of the differences I wanted to make sure I pointed out. So this line of demarcation to the south, they are required, R1B is only a 6-foot side yard setback. But when we get into R1D, it's now a 12-foot side yard setback. So the request at hand does require currently 2 variances. So the first is to allow new residents with a 20-foot setback from unimproved Annette, where 40-foot would typically be required. And then also on the north side yard to allow an 8-foot side yard setback, where 12-foot is conventionally required in this district. I do have the plan, and I've got a couple of slides of the elevation drawings. So if you can follow the cursor, proposed residence outlined in red here. This is our subject site. Right side of the screen, Meridian. To the south of the lot, unimproved Annette. To the left, the water, or the west, the water. And then there are residences on both sides of this property. So to the north and to the south, there are existing single-family homes. And as I just mentioned, this proposal has a 20-foot setback along unimproved Annette, and then an 8-foot setback proposed along the northerly side yard. Those are the 2 variances that are before you tonight. In this view, and I apologize, I had to take photographs of these. I didn't have PDFs, so I did the best I could to cram as much info in here as I could. Bottom of the screen, this is the Meridian front yard view of the proposed residence. This portion here to the right of the screen, it is a side-loaded garage. And so if you take that perspective and we twist it, this is the south elevation at the top of the screen. So this is the view from unimproved and net, just to give you the geographical representation. So this would be the south view of the home. And then opposite the meridian front, this is the proposed waterfront side of the house. So this would be the west building elevation, just to give you some perspective on the design. Now kind of diving into the key points of my review letter in terms of a summary. So the issue at hand here, I would think, is really tied to the size of the lot, and by size of the lot, I'm specifically referencing width of the lot. So in this case, it is a non-conforming lot, as was noted at the outset, because it is deficient in terms of lot width. They have a 90-foot lot in a 100-foot district. So in this particular case, the combination of the narrow lot plus the corner lot setback requirement along unimproved and net does reduce the building envelope to a point where it's reduced in width to 38 feet is the number. So essentially all that is the 40-foot setback, the 12-foot setback off of a 90-foot lot. So that's actually simple math that even I can do on the spot. So that worked out well. In terms of the neighborhood and in terms of a lot of this size, that is relatively narrow. And so under the test for practical difficulty, it will not obviously prevent a home from being built here, but you do have the position that you could view that as being unnecessarily burdensome to the applicant as it relates to building a home that is compatible with the other homes in this neighborhood. All that being said, the bulk of my letter focuses kind of on one key thing, and I do think this is rather important in terms of meeting the test for granting variance, for granting a dimensional variance specifically. And that is, I really think that this plan and this request would be improved if the petitioner was able to shift the home 4 feet to the south. What that does is two things. One, it eliminates the second variance. So while it does increase the extent of the first variance a little bit, so we're encroaching a little bit more into the unimproved and net front yard, we are providing a compliant side yard setback at that point in time. And I think what that does is a couple of things. One, it provides better protection, and I think in terms of substantial justice, I think it's more fair to the neighbor to the north. I would rather see an encroachment into an unimproved right-of-way area as opposed to an encroachment into someone else's sort of expected space between homes. The other part of that is the home to the south, so the existing home here, has it's listed at a 15.6 foot setback along unimproved and net. So I also looked at it from the perspective of neighborhood character and established conditions. So reducing this to a 16-foot setback for the proposal would essentially match the existing setback of the home to the north. So I think that would be more in keeping with neighborhood character, while at the same time eliminating any potential infringement upon the property to the north. So that's the gist of it. I will go ahead and finish off these points, and then I'll take some questions here. So I do think that the home should be shifted unless there is a specific reason why that cannot be done. I do think that is something the applicant should consider, and I think the board should also take that into consideration. I've already referenced protecting the home to the north in terms of neighborhood character. There's also a standard I did not mention earlier. You do have one of your standards is tied to promoting orderly development. So I felt as though that was also a good fit in understanding of providing that full 12-foot side yard setback, but then also encroaching into the unimproved right-of-way and almost matching the established setback for the residents to the south. The property is somewhat unusual in that it is deficient in lot width for this district, and it is also a corner lot along a paper street. While that is not completely out of question. As I mentioned earlier, we do see this type of request every couple of years. It is not typical, and it is somewhat unusual in terms of a property condition. And then related to the other standards, I don't foresee issues of public safety. I don't foresee issues of impacting land values. Certainly, again, by shifting the home to the south, I think we are protecting supply of light and air for the property to the north, which has an expectation of a fully compliant 12-foot side yard setback. So I think that would be a big improvement. Don't foresee any issues of traffic flow. It's a new home on an existing road. There shouldn't be any issues there. And then just the neighborhood in general, I don't foresee any real significant impacts to the surrounding properties by the development of a single-family home on really what is, one of the I shouldn't say one of the few, there's still some more to the north, but in terms of this stretch of Meridian, it is mostly a developed area of the township. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to take any questions that you all may have.
If I may, sir, what was the setback again for the R1B district to the south and the R1D district where this would house?
So the difference is in the side yard setbacks. So R1B is a 6-foot minimum side yard district. R1D is a 12-foot minimum side yard district.
This is on the unimproved Annette. It's only the side yard setback to the north.
Correct.
That would apply, not to the south, since it's technically a front yard.
That's
there.
correct.
Okay.
Yep. So based on, just applying, if you can follow my cursor on screen. So this is a front. So this is a 40-foot requirement, and they're providing 40. To the south, this is a 40-foot requirement because it is a front. They are proposing 20. I am suggesting that it should potentially go down to 16. This is waterfront, so you can see at least the line of demarcation just with the immediate homes is right in here, so we're right on target. And then to the north is a side yard, and they are currently proposing 8. My suggestion would be that be increased to 12, which would be fully compliant.
Any other questions?
Brian, the house on the south, it's at 15.6?
Yep.
Where a variance?
I don't know. It's either non-conforming or it was granted by variance. It's one of the two.
And we are using that 15.6 in yours, one of your recommendations, moving it 4 foot south to the expected, or the right-of-way if it was improved, not to the center of that right-of-way, correct?
Correct. To the lot line. So this bolded line, if you can see that bolded line is the lot line / right-of-way line. Yes, no, it has nothing to do with center lines of rights-of-way. Again, my thought is that this should be shifted the 4 feet down. That would put it at 16 feet from the lot line, which is essentially consistent or matching the existing setback of the home to the south.
Thank you, Brian.
Very welcome.
Here, we would ask the applicant to step forward, give us their name and address, and who's going to present on their behalf, and give us your presentation, please.
Hi, my name is Nick Grius, and my address is 22255 King Road, Woodhaven, Michigan, 48183, and Robert Summers is going to be representing me.
Yeah, my name is Robert Summers Architecture and Planning, 8172 Stout, Grosvenor. And as Nick said, I'm going to try and answer any questions you might have. So, and before we even get into that, I did discuss with Nick, because we had talked to Brian about this situation with the side yard. We have absolutely no problem with moving this house 4 feet to the south and providing that 12-foot. So just so you know that.
In addition to that, you provided us with 2 documents outlining the applicant's positions penned by you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there, can you elaborate on more of those or in more detail?
Well, if you have any questions on them, the only thing I might comment is that if we were to try and use the existing setback situation, one of the things that would cause is it would limit the house width to 38 feet, and by the time you took a 26-foot garage front, that would limit the width of the visible house from Meridian to about 12, 14 feet, which to me would not be aesthetically conducive to the neighborhood and not appropriate for the other houses that are around there.
Power in the middle.
You're looking at Garage Central.
Is there any questions to the applicant and/or his presenter?
No, sir, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does anybody in the audience have any comments or statements they'd like to make? Yes, sir, please come forward and give us your name and your address, sir.
My name is Gerald Myron, and my address is 18008 Meridian. I live in a home that's about 5 lots north of the property here, and I just want to explain that when I built my home about 20 years ago, I came before this board with a very similar type of variance request. I had wanted 2 foot wider and 2 foot to the north variance, which is wetlands and cannot be built. But I was turned down by this board, and I had to go back and redesign my house, pay an architect to make it fit within the variance. And that's what I'm suggesting here. I'm objecting to the variance, and I don't think there was much of a hardship demonstrated for this, that they can't do what I had happen to me. So those are my comments.
Sir, if I may.
Go on.
Do you remember the size that had your variance been granted versus the size which you then developed to comply, what the difference was as far as
2 feet. It was 2 foot variance to the north.
I realize that. but
Property itself is an 80-foot lot, which they didn't mention in here. There are lots that are 80 foot in that section.
So
So
my question though is the square footage of your home. What did you have to reduce the square footage of
Yes, I
your
did.
home? That was my question, is from what was your proposed, do you remember?
I don't remember it
Okay.
at the moment.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so, I'm sorry, so you are 5 houses to the north of this property?
5 lots, yes, I believe.
All right, can you, is there any kind of an impact this would have on your property, 5 doors north?
No.
Okay, so this won't have any impact regardless of which way this goes?
Well, the only impact is, as you know, part of the reason for the variances is for people walking by, driving by, they can still see the waterfront between the homes. And that would be the only thing that would inhibit me.
No, I understand that, but I also
Nothing-
drove by there today and looked at it very closely too. You can't see the water from Meridian and in that space. I mean, it's all wooded area.
Sure.
So,
Yep.
if anything else, it probably would open it up and open up that view, in my opinion.
Possibly.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anyone else in the audience want to make any comments? Please, sir, come forward and give us your name and your address, sir.
David Setlinski, 18024 Meridian. I'm the house directly on the north side. I have no problem with it. Let him do it. It's his property. Yeah, I like the 12-foot variance thing, though, but not that I want to do it next door to you. But, hey, more room the better. Push him the other side. But, no, let him. It's his property. You should be able to build
You
on
have
it.
no issues with this?
Not at all.
Okay, and you're the neighbor directly to the north?
I'm 18024 the north. John, I can't pronounce your last name. I talked to him about it. I'm fine with it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Very nice to meet you.
Other questions from the gallery or public? None being said, any discussion by the board members of the proposed variance and the applicant's agreement to move the house 4 feet to the south to eliminate only one variance being needed?
Sound good?
Is there a motion to approve or deny the proposed variance with the modification that it be moved 4 feet to the south, so only needing one variance as requested?
I would like to make a motion to approve that. The one variance to the south side yard of 16 feet as opposed to the 40 that's required off of unimproved net. Due to the substantial hardship and a few other things in here too, but I mean, one's gonna be substantial hardship, the practical difficulty of it. It's not gonna have any really effect on safety, views. It's not gonna be any kind of a nuisance. It's gonna be within character of the neighborhood, so. If we go ahead and move to make the one variance to the 16-foot north of the unimproved net and keep the 12-foot separation between the house to the north, I would be good with that. This motion, I want to move forward.
Okay, thank you. Any?
Support.
I'm sorry.
I'll
Support?
second.
We have support? Okay. Any other questions or comments? With the support of the motion, and can I hear?
Roll call.
Right. Okay. The applicant, would you like to please step back up to make sure that you're in agreement with the proposed motion to permit with one variance moving the structure 4 feet to the south as you indicated in your presentation?
I agree.
All right, thank you.
Do they want to go forward with just 5 of us?
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, sir.
Okay.
They're asking, since we do not have the full number of board members here tonight, you need a 4 yes versus a 3 to 2. Do you want to go forward with not the full board being here today? Or do you want to have them come back at a second meeting when there's full membership? Okay, thank you. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just a comment that prior decisions by the Zoning Board of Appeals do not constitute a precedent for decisions that are in front of us tonight.
Agree, and that being said, it's because every lot or every home is king to one person only, not a replication of every other home, so thank you very much, John. That being said, we have a motion and support. We'd like to take a vote on the motion to grant with the one variance only. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any nays? No nays. That being said, the variance with one proposed variance is granted. Thank you very much, folks. We appreciate it. The next item on our agenda is any comments or miscellaneous items for our next meeting, when that would be. Or do we have anyone pending for an applicant?
We do, we have 2 of them on the, so far for November.
Oh,
And we are, at this point in time, contemplating a special meeting for officers, or are we doing it at the November meeting?
Maybe a special meeting.
And what's the date for the November meeting? All right.
Mr. Chairman? Did I
Yes.
hear that correctly, that special meeting for the election of officers?
That's been subject to some discussion, of whether we should have it at a regular board meeting or at a special meeting. It has not been decided yet.
I think given the fact that our agendas typically aren't very full, and we've been here for half an hour, adding an additional 15 minutes to elect officers is not a heavy burden.
That would be my position as well. It would avoid having to come here a second time just to do what we could have done after a 20-minute meeting earlier. So I am not.
Who is the decision maker? I would suggest it's you. You control the agenda.
It's up to me. I would say we'd add the election of officers to the next November meeting and publish it as that, so if anybody has any problems, they can bring it up before that meeting, not the night of the meeting.
Okay.
Well done.
Chuck, can I ask a question? Why aren't we doing it tonight?
It's my understanding one of the absentee members requested it be not voted on this evening. Am I correct?
Correct.
And I'm honoring the request to be a gentleman to that meeting, that member. I don't see any difference in the
Yeah.
proposed outcome.
We've always done it during the regular meeting.
I
so
agree. I agree. But with that being said, it's going to be on the agenda for the November meeting then.
Okay.
Okay?
Hold that. Thank you.
All right, any other miscellaneous items?
Something doesn't.
Motion to adjourn tonight's meeting by anyone?
Motion to adjourn.
Amen.
Second? Tonight's meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.